Awesome. Okay, so we're actually going to talk about the user experience side of MPC, or the user experience side of onboarding new users to Web3. I'm going to, do I have a clicker? Let's see. Oh, wow, this is fancy. Okay. But I'll start with a quick introduction. I'm Itai, co-founder of a company called Dynamic. We will cover essentially 4 things in this presentation. First, Dynamic in 60 seconds. The idea is not to pitch the company, rather to give you context as to why we're here, but I wouldn't be a founder without pitching the company, so please check it out. Then we'll talk about the challenges with current approaches to kind of onboarding new users. We'll talk about some innovations that we can potentially do, and we'll talk about the long-term vision, and we'll try to keep it to 15 minutes. So very quick, for those that don't know Dynamic, we're a Web3 authentication authorization platform. Really, we do the thing on the right, which is kind of an SDK that lets you log in if you have a wallet. If you don't have a wallet, it's multi-chain. We work with folks like Animoca Brands and Token Proof and Flipside Crypto. It looks essentially like this. Let's see if this works. So it's a very flexible type of login tool that folks use to kind of power their entire authentication. And what we'll focus on today is really that email and social part, which can be powered by MPC, and we'll talk about some of the challenges today. With that, it's a customizable kind of product, but I'm not gonna kind of dive into that. Let's actually talk about MPC. Now, I'll start with a quick disclaimer, which is MPC is a lot of different things. It can be used for many, many different use cases. We're gonna specifically talk about how to leverage MPC for consumer flows, and that's pretty much it, right? It's a good, MPC can be used in a good way for some flows. There are disadvantages to the things I'm gonna describe with kind of B2B or things of that sort. This is focused on a specific part of MPC. The industry goal is pretty much very, very simple, which is create magical onboarding flows for users. Someone goes into your site, they want to perform an action, they want to get a wallet in the background so that they can kind of interact with crypto rails. But besides that, they really don't care. No one besides us cares about MPC. Users do not care about crypto at all. They just want to perform an action. And if we remember that, we kind of get 90% ahead on solving this problem. There are many, many, many challenges today to leveraging MPC as the way to get to that end state, to get to a point where someone logs in with their email address, or social login, or passkey, and just gets to the end result. And the challenges include things like iCloud or Google Drive as a backup mechanism for storing a share of the key, or storing the decryption for a ciphertext or anything of that sort, is a non-starter for folks. When was the last time that in Web 2 you were asked to connect your iCloud or asked to connect your Google Drive as part of an onboarding flow, right? That's a challenge. A second challenge is the concept of 2FA, things like kind of entering a passcode or things of that sort are usually not very natural to folks as they onboard to consumer applications, right? We need to make them very, very close to invisible or close to something they're very used to, right? Developers, from our conversations, really want to split the first-time experience from how you kind of educate customers about your product later on. So the goal is, how do you really abstract away as much as possible at the beginning? And the 2 more things I will say is that first, there's very different user expectations on desktop versus mobile. So again, the goal is no one really cares about MPC. We kind of care. No one else really does. And a good example of this with things like, you know, different kind of products that offer different types of threshold signatures. There are sometimes a new kind of process around establishing a new device and how you save things on that device. That's not a normal Web 2 experience for folks. That's kind of a weird thing that is a little bit out of the blue for folks, right? You sometimes do it in banks, right? You logged into a new account, they tell you about it, but it's a non-trivial kind of flow. And so with that, let's talk about what companies actually do care about, right? So companies really care about something that just kind of works, right? They care about the least amount of clicks possible to get a user to actually experience the thing they want to experience. They care about non-custody. Large enterprises care about, hey, what if the MPC company goes out of business, right? As much as everyone in this room and everyone who's building kind of MPC-based software wants to be in business for the next 100 years, at one point, at least a subset of us will not be here. And so those are kind of things that we need to think about from the end consumer side, but also from the business side. And with that, a couple of, let's see if this works. A couple of new approaches for how we can tackle this. So the first one, and these are, the way to think about these are kind of rules of the road based on what we have learned from our lens to the way to build a nice kind of UX type of experience. Right? The rules of the road, you can mix and match them, but we've seen that they actually work pretty well. The first one is you want to completely abstract away wallets. Right? You might want to never talk about wallet as a concept in your app at all. Right? Again, the concept, you have to separate out the technology that you use, whether it's MPC or whether it's show me your secret share or whether kind of it's kind of a KMS-based solution. That is completely irrelevant for the user. So you want to abstract that out, and you want to get to an experience that feels as similar to what customers are used to today, right? You want to potentially separate first-time onboarding and lower the barrier there even more versus second-time onboarding, third-time onboarding. And the last thing, and we'll go into one more level of detail in a second about account abstraction, but the last thing that's important on the rules of the road is that MPC is not the end of be all. And I know we're in an MPC conference, so what I'm saying might be like, might be controversial, but MPC is a type of a solution. It is not the holy grail of solutions. There are other very innovative approaches for how keys can be stored, how UX can be abstracted. You might want to mix and match between those. For games, as an example, MPC is sometimes a non-starter because the time for the ceremony to happen is way longer than what a game would expect, right? And so if you think about it from a user perspective, from a developer perspective, they might not care. Two things I want to talk about specifically and double down on kind of pathways to a solution that we have seen a lot of promise for are first passkeys. And I'll show kind of a very quick, can someone click the, yeah, thank you. So as a good example is you log in with Face ID, and essentially if you can get to a point where that was really it, and that's a way in which a wallet was created, in which MPC kind of, whether it's MPC or anything else, has generated the entire kind of shares and backup shares and things of that sort, that is a good experience. Because that essentially completely isolates anything that has to do with wallets. You can communicate as in a way to secure an account, and you're done. Right? So that is one example, not the only example, for how you can potentially abstract away technology from the user experience. A second kind of concept, let me see, oh wait, how do I move? Okay, there we go. A second important thing is that you can potentially think through is abstracting the signer from the actual kind of wallet, right? So moving away from you spin up an MPC-based wallet and you create some sort of EOA wallet to you spin up a signer that is then used for a smart contract account. And ignoring gas fees, ignoring the fact that a lot of smart contract accounts are very, very early in their life cycle, you essentially create this abstraction layer that lets you do a lot of really clever things for developers. And so another thing we have seen that has a lot of promise on creating wonderful UX with MPC is essentially spin up a wallet, do it with a passkey, with a passcode, with email backup, or anything of that sort. Or spin up a private public key type signer with MPC, and then essentially use that to spin up a smart contract account with Biconomy or ZeroDev or anything of that sort, and completely abstract away the need to interact with the EOA wallet, which essentially lets you create some sort of upgradability over the long term. It lets you start doing things like adding additional signers, so if folks want to move from one provider to the other, they can do that. That is something we have seen potentially be very, very promising. How am I doing on time? Do I have another? Last 4 minutes? Okay, I can do this 3. No, I'm kidding. But the long-term vision, I'll cover this very, very quickly. Our long-term vision is that everything kind of turns into a wallet, right? Every app on your phone today will have an embedded wallet as a part of it. And that will let you do a bunch of really, really cool things. But it makes you need to completely rethink the onboarding process as a result. And there are a lot of unanswered questions that are left in order to get to that vision where everything's a wallet, right? Those include things like, will embedded wallets be siloed, right? Meaning, do I have a single wallet like a MetaMask, or will I have 50 wallets and every one of my apps is a wallet? Those are very much unanswered questions that really dictate what the UX will be long term. The second unanswered question, and it's very relevant in MPC land, which is, do folks want to, at one point, take their key with them? Right? The beauty of distributed key generation, kind of the MPC ceremony, is that the key never exists. But if someone wants to export their key into a MetaMask, you have to reconstruct it at one point. Right? So a key question to ask, is that a use case, or is that a theoretical use case? Who actually needs this type of key generation? And the last thing is, are wallets kind of closed off, or are they gateways to authentication? Today, wallets, for instance, Coinbase wallet, Coinbase wallet, you set it up, and then you use it to authenticate to third-party sites. Well, embedded wallets based on MPC do the same. Are they going to be siloed? Is an app that Steam creates one day going to be used to log into a bunch of games outside Steam, or just going to be the way in which you save Steam-related assets on your platform? Those unanswered questions really dictate a lot of the end result of how UX will be, right? And there are no answers to those. These are very, very early days. But I'll end with kind of not an inspiring thing, but the cool thing and what we've seen in Dynamic is there's a lot of very good progress on kind of getting to this magical UX that completely abstracts away the concept of Web3, where you log in and you create your account in an identical way to what you do today, and you get an extremely secure wallet at the kind of tail end of that. And that's pretty cool. And with that, again, wouldn't be a founder without self-promoting Dynamic. Scan a QR code. You can go to our website, check us out. And that is pretty much it.
Great. Any questions for Dynamic? One. I see one. One sec.
So thanks for the talk, Itai. So in all those flows where the user does not use a Google Drive, does not use an iCloud, and rather essentially use some sort of authenticator, right, like a passkey or a passcode, how do you think about achieving non-custodiality in this case?
Yeah, it's a really great question. Some of these are unanswered, right? So you might want to combine it where, well, it depends on your implementation, right? You might want to have the backup key actually not be behind a passkey, but rather email it to someone, right? That is an option for non-custody. In general, the beauty of passkeys specifically for non-custody is that they are inherently a private key that only the end user knows, right? So you have inherently established something that no one beside the end user knows. So if you've encrypted a part of the kind of one of the shares through it, then you have gotten closer to non-custody. But it's a mix and match. So I would argue that like an experience that I've seen work well is some sort of passkey for login plus email recovery for an additional share. In a way where email recovery doesn't touch some servers but touches other servers. That's a solution. It's not the only solution. Specifically on Google Drive and Apple Drive, it just the reason I give that like as a perspective is that it's very much a jarring experience for someone for the first time. Or like, when is the last time you set up like a Robinhood or a Coinbase and it said, great, log in, now set up back up a thing on your iDrive, like Google Cloud. It's not like a standard Web 2 recognized pattern, which is why we shy away from it.
Thank you.
You mentioned that everything is a wallet. And since I come from the cryptology side of things and not cryptocurrency side of it, I'm wondering, what do you mean by wallet? Because I think what I'm hearing is actually not wallet, but signing key. I thought, could you clarify that a little?
Yes, I think there are multiple use cases. I'll give you an example, right? One example is that the way, I think actually what Visa recently kind of rolled out with settling on Solana versus settling on kind of ACH is put yourself in that mindset and then say, okay, the way for me to transfer funds from app A to app B is just using crypto rails. My hook, my kind of the way for me to connect to that like hook of crypto rails is inherently a wallet, right? So for me, for Venmo to move from their current rails to crypto rails, really Venmo needs to spin every Venmo user as a wallet. And then that is really their like, outlet connection to the blockchain infrastructure. So it's a wallet. So that is it. Does that make? I don't know if that makes.
Well, it just sounds more financial again. It sounds like you're saying everything in the financial world is going to be a wallet, which I get. That makes sense in the financial world. I was wondering if you meant outside of the financial world, or just in the financial world.
No. So I think that was an example, right? So a second example, by the way, in the financial world is essentially all your bank accounts should have a crypto wallet as a part of them, because then instead of using Zelle, right, you would use crypto networks in order to send money from one bank account to another and gain all the like benefits of that, right? In terms of non-financial use cases, I'll give an example, which is Steam, right? Or Steam is essentially your gaming identity, right? Steam should inherently have a built-in wallet where all games write NFTs to Steam's wallet and read NFTs from Steam's wallet.
Why?
Because then you, as Steam, start getting really nice network effects of games being able to share assets across them, right?
But if the game doesn't involve an NFT, then why? This is again.
Yeah.
I'm not not into
I think that's
cryptocurrency,
fair.
and so I look at NFTs as oftentimes people throw NFTs at things for just because NFTs are everything. It's like,
Right.
as somebody who's not into this and sort of goes like, I don't think I own a single NFT.
Yeah.
Why do
I will say this a different way, which is maybe we shouldn't use the word NFT because it's like a triggering word for folks. Rather, I would say you today in games have digital goods. It's a part of your gaming experience. I don't know if you're a gamer, but like, if you're a gamer, you go into a game, you have digital goods. Taking those from game A, and one of the ways in which you onboard to new games is ideally you don't start from scratch. Right, which is why gaming studios exist in like web that kind of let you share things across. Taking things from game A and using them on game B is a very good use case for folks to kind of introduce you to additional games. Again, ignoring NFTs, just completely ignoring NFTs. Digital goods in games, moving them from game A to game B. A very interesting way of doing it technologically is using crypto rails and NFTs. People don't really need to know about NFTs. People don't need to know about any of this stuff. This is my point about embedded wallets. But the the cool infrastructure way to do it in a way where it's kind of composable, in a way where the next additional game can benefit from it, is using the concept of non-fungible tokens. That's what I mean by NFTs. People would not know. My argument is that a lot of people would not necessarily need to know about NFTs. That's my argument here, which is you just log in just like you would log in today, but you would have another piece of infrastructure in your app, which is a wallet.
I see where you're coming from now. Thank you.
Okay.
Any more questions? No more. Thank you so much for your time, Itai.
Thank you, guys.